7, right? So with this being the case, the way I look at this, if I count my numbers, 1, 2, 3, fourth decimal place is a pip, I like to look at it like this. This is our ones, meaning every time this moves, it's going to be 1. This is our tens. Every time an 8 goes up or down, in this specific case, that's going to be tens. And this is our 100s. That makes it so easy to say, okay, if the euro dollar went from 1.0787, what it's at right now, to 1.0797, how much did we move? Well, let's look down here at our chart where that's the tens. That column is the tens. That decimal point, number 3, is the tens. So therefore, this went down. And actually, in this case, since we went up from 8 to 9, hopefully you caught that before I did, then obviously that means that the euro dollar went up 10 pips because it was in our third decimal point. Now, let's do one more number to make sure you understand this, and we'll go through one more currency pair to really make sure you have a good grasp on this. This is the foundation of any trading career. So let's do 1.0887. Can you tell me at this point how many pips did the euro dollar rise? Well, let's look at our column or graph. We have our ones, the 7, it stayed the same. We have our tens, which was 8, it stayed the same. We have our 100s that was 7 and is now 8. That means that the euro dollar went up not by 10, but by 100 pips. So that's the way you recognize a pip. A pip is the fourth decimal place. It's the smallest amount of currency moves that we care about as traders. Let's do a completely different currency pair that is not a yen pair and go over one more. And again, just like in the last lesson, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions as we go through this. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions as we go through this, and I want you to actually answer those questions on the other end where you're sitting or standing, depending on whether or not you're trying to get exercise in. And now what we're going to do, again, is go over a different currency pair. Let's go over the Aussie New Zealand. Let's just pick a random pair. So AUD, NZD. I do my N's backwards. I'm slightly dyslexic. I literally just drew an N backwards because I cannot ever remember which way they go, and in my head it's always backwards. So we have the Aussie New Zealand, right? The Aussie New Zealand has a current value of 1.0248. 1.0248. Tell me what would be the case, okay? Let's go over a scenario. If the Aussie New Zealand went from 1.0248 to 1.0348. How many pips did this currency pair move? I'll give you a second. Hopefully you were able to say 100 pips. Let's draw out our table one more time to make this very easy. 1.0248. Okay? Here we have our little table that I like to make. At this point, we have our ones, our 1 pip, which is the fourth decimal. Our tens, which is the third decimal. We'll write this out too. 1, 2, 3, 4 decimals. We have our 100s, and the 0 would be the 1000s. You don't really have to know that. That's kind of irrelevant unless we have some kind of super crazy market moves. But in this case of the Aussie New Zealand, from 1.0248 to 1.0348, which currency, stop my phone here. Which one of these numbers changed? It wasn't our ones at all, was it? Our ones was an 8, it's still an 8. It wasn't our tens, it was a 4, it's still a 4. Was it our 100s? It was a 2, it is a 3. So therefore, this market moved 100 pips. Going from 2 to 3 would mean that we moved a total of 100 pips here on the Aussie New Zealand. So in order to be absolutely sure that you understand all this, give yourself a little test. Look at a currency pair and look at all the numbers on that pair's value, and then ask yourself what would change. Write down another random number below or above it, and what would change if price went from where it is now to that number that you wrote down. That's a great exercise to do here in this case. And remember, the way we're looking at this is our pip, our 1 pip, is the fourth decimal place away from the decimal. Okay, so if we have our, just as a final review here on non-yen pairs, if we have the fourth decimal place here, this would be 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 after the decimal. This is 1 pip. This is the tens, this is the 100s. So if we move to 1.0258, then we have moved up 10 pips. That's how you need to be looking at it in terms of what a pip is and how it's valued. Now, we've just talked about every non-yen pair. Any pair that does not have JPY will be calculated like this and will be valuated like this with 4 decimal places. Now, what about yen pairs? Something very slight changes on any pair with a letter JPY attached to it. So let's do an example of that right now. If we look at the value right now of the dollar yen, which is USD JPY. The dollar yen currently has a value of 110.90. With this being the case, and on only pairs with JPY attached to them, we go 2 decimal places instead of 4. What do I mean by that? Let's actually draw the graph right now so that we can make this as easy as possible. We have 110.90. Okay, if we draw our same graph, this is what it looks like now. Now, our 1 pip is the second decimal place. So what do we have to do? We see our decimal right there. We go 1, 2. On the second decimal place is 1 pip. So this is our ones. What does that mean for the 9 in this specific case? That means the 9 is going to be our 10s and the 0 is going to be our 100s. Okay? So with this in place, let's go ahead and ask ourselves a very familiar question for this video, which is, if this market moved from 110.90 to 110.96, how many pips did it go up? If the market moved this amount, how many pips is that this market just rose? Well, if we look at the ones, it goes from 0 to 6. Therefore, this market would have risen or rose, not sure which one to use there, by 6 pips. Let me turn this on silent. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now let's go over a couple of other examples. So instead of us rising by 6 pips, I want you to tell me how much we are rising in this case. Let's go with 112.90. If price of the dollar yen goes from 110.90 to 112.90, then how much has that value risen? How much has the price went up? This, my friends, would be 200 pips, because this column that was 0 is the hundreds column. So this would be a plus 200 on the dollar yen. Now, to make sure that you understand yen pairs as well as you do every other currency pair, I'm going to go over one more yen pair that doesn't have the dollar in it, just a completely different pair, to make sure you're completely comprehending how to read pips. Let's go ahead and do that right now. And again, in this section, I'll be asking a lot of questions, and I want you to try to answer them at home so that you get a better grasp of this before I answer them here, even if you have to pause the video. So let's go. That all rhymed. Wow, that's pretty good. Let's go into another yen pair. Let's try out the pound yen. So GBP, JPY, and the value of this currency pair right now, if I find it on the chart, and I'll show you a screenshot of it somewhere, the value of the pound yen is 130.70. As you'll notice, because this pair has JPY in it, we only move 2 decimals from the decimal, right? So if we have 130.70, then decimal 1 would count as how many pips? This is our tens, remember? And then this, our second decimal, right? This is decimal 2, is going to be 1 pip. So if this market and this are 0 on the 130, our 0 is going to be 100 pips. So if this market goes to 133.70, what do we have? How much of a move did we have in the pound yen? We had a 300 pip move, a plus 300 pip move. If we go from 130.70 to 130.85, how many pips did we move? We moved up 15 pips, because 70 to 85 is 15. if we go to 130.72, how many pips did we move? Up 2 pips. And if we go from 130.70 to 129.70, how much did we go down? 100 pips. We went down 100 pips. So I hope that now you have a really good grasp of what a pip actually means and how to calculate a currency's value against another one. This is a very important foundational step to beginning your foreign currency trading career. So it's definitely necessary to have in the arsenal. And up next, we're going to talk about what is the actual value for each pip, how to calculate order size, and a little bit about leverage. So I hope to see you there in the next video, or I will see you there in the next video, and I'll talk to you then. See you soon. Hey guys, just wanted to record this really quickly before we start the next video. For anyone who is trading with a brokerage that requires you to trade in either standard lots, mini lots, or micro lots, which you're going to learn about in just a second, then you're going to be required to watch this next portion of the video. For instance, if you trade with MT4 as your platform, for the most part, MT4 will only allow you to trade in either standard lots, mini lots, or micro lots, which you're going to learn about again in just a second. And if that's the case, then you definitely need to watch the first part of this video. But if you want to learn the way that I personally use risk management and calculate the value of a pip, which is what we're talking about in this video, then that's going to happen towards the end of the video. I'm going to go over the way I actually do it. My brokerage allows me to make trades, place positions based on a random lot size. It does not matter if it's 122,000 units, if it's 22,000 units, it doesn't matter. It's completely random, and that's okay with my brokerage and with the platform that I use. For that reason, I personally calculate the value of a pip a little bit differently, but the first part of this video is definitely for you if you're using MT4 or a platform that requires you to trade based on a certain lot size, which is a lot of brokerages out there, which is why I wanted to record this video just for you. If you're someone who is more interested in learning exactly what I use in order to calculate the value per pip, then I'll have a timestamp on the screen somewhere where you can go to that portion of the video and skip this first portion. But it would probably be beneficial to watch this first part anyway. I did want to clarify that though in the beginning. So now let's jump into how to calculate the value of a pip this next lesson. Talk soon. Welcome to lesson number 3 on the basics of Forex. In this lesson, we're going to talk about what you actually want in terms of trading, how to calculate profits, and what you don't want in terms of trading, how to calculate your losses. And what I mean by this is that's a terrible W. We're going to restart this whole thing. Just kidding. We are going to restart with that W though. What is the value of a pip? So we know what the foreign exchange market is, we know about currency pairs, and we know what a pip is, but what is the actual value of that pip to you in your trading? Because, well, you probably know this by now. If a market moves up in pips, if you buy and the market moves up in pips, then you're going to make money. If you sell and the market goes down in pips, you're going to lose money. But how do you calculate how much money that is? This is a question I get all the time. How do I calculate my wins and my losses in Forex? And today in this video, what I'm going to show you how to do is determine the value of a pip. So how do we do this? Well, for starters, the value of a pip depends highly on the amount of currency you're trading. What that means is the amount of units that you're trading. So in currency markets, we're trading a set of units. And these units normally come in 4 major lot sizes. 4 major sizes. So if you're trading units of currency, what you want to actually look at, and I'm going to do a graph for this, is the lot size in order to come up with the amount of value per pip, the amount of value each pip is worth. It depends on your trading lot size or the amount of units that you're trading. And those units again are broken down into, most of the time, it's actually 3 major types, but we're going to do a 4th just in case. The 4th one is one that's used very rarely, but you'll understand more about that in just a second. Don't get confused, nothing confusing about this. What we're going to have in this column is the name of whatever lot size you're doing. What we're going to have in this column is the size And what we're going to have in this column is the value per pip. So value PP, value per pip in this last column. And this is going to be the case for every pair that ends in USD. It's going to be very similar. This is a generalization. Every pair that ends in USD is going to be exactly to this scale. Other currency pairs are going to vary, but not by much. This is a generalization. This is a generalization, but other currency pairs are not going to vary that much from this table. The name of the first size that is very common is a standard lot. So we're going to label this SL. That stands for a standard lot. Now, if you're trading a standard lot, that means you're trading 100,000 units of currency. So if we're trading 100,000 units of currency on any pair that ends in USD, then this is the exact value per pip. If you have one standard lot that you're trading, or if you're trading every 100,000 units you're trading, you are trading at a value of $10 per pip. So if you're trading a standard lot on the euro dollar, that means that every pip is $10. Every pip that it moves is $10. Let's go through the rest of the types of or size of units that you can do first, and then we'll break into more about what they mean and how you can utilize them. The second one is called a mini lot. A mini lot means that you're controlling or holding 10,000 units of a certain currency. And with this being the case, with 10,000 units of a currency, you have a value per pip of $1. So for every 10,000 units of a currency that you hold, there is a value of $1 per pip. That's exactly right on dollar pairs. It's a generalization that is very similar on other pairs as well. And the last lot we're going to take a look at is the micro lot. The micro lot means you're controlling 1,000 units of a certain currency, and that means that you are losing or gaining 10 cents per pip. So every pip that the market moves is going to be 10 cents up or down in your account if you're trading a micro lot. And the last one that we're going to take a look at that we're not going to dive deep into at all is called a nano lot. A nano lot means that you're controlling 100 units of currency, and every movement of a pip is worth a penny. The value per pip is a penny, which is something that we're not even going to worry about. So in the case of the other lots, let's now break into, let's get away from this little section here. And what we're going to do is break into looking at the different in prices between currency pairs and figuring out how much we gained or lost based on that difference in price. So for instance, if you bought the euro dollar, EUR, at 1.0802 and it went to 1.0902, if you were trading a standard lot and this happened, how much would you gain on that position? How much money is that actually worth? And that's what we're going to determine and talk about up next. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's move into this on the euro dollar trade here. If we have the euro dollar at 1.0802, we trade one standard lot, 100,000 units of this currency, and we do so at 1.0802, and this market moves to 1.0902. Going up, we wanted the market to go up, and we take profit at 1.0902. How much money did we make? See if you can calculate how much money we made based on this trade. Remember, a standard lot is 100,000 units of currency, and with that 100,000 units of currency, on any pairs ending in USD, we're making and losing exactly $10. The value of a pip is exactly $10. So let me share with you the equation you need to figure this out. What you need first is the amount of pips. So we're going to look at the amount of pips, which is 100. We went up 100 pips in this particular case, right? So we have 100 pips times the amount or the value per pip in this situation based on your lot size. So if we used a standard lot of 100,000 units and we know that a standard lot on the euro dollar is equal to $10 per pip, then we would have our amount of pips times $10 per pip, because we're using a standard lot. And that we have to multiply by the amount of standard lots. In this case, we just traded one standard lot. So with this being the case, how much money did we make on this 100 pip move on the euro dollar? Well, the money would translate to 100 times 10, because we're using a standard lot, and with a standard lot, we are making and losing $10 per pip. The value per pip is $10. We only traded one standard lot, so therefore 100 times 10 is $1,000 is what you made, or what we would have made on this 100 pip move out of the euro dollar. Now, let's change things up for a second and say we wanted to trade 3 standard lots. In this case, what would change? What number in the equation would we need to change if this was the case and we were trading 3 standard lots instead of 1? Well, if that was the case, we would have to change the third number in this equation. We still have a 100 pip move, right? Pips is right here. We still are trading standard lots, so standard lot is right here. Now we need number of lots. So what's the number of lots? Well, we're trading 3. So that would mean that this 100 pip move, if you were trading 3 standard lots, would equal a $3,000 gain. Now let's look at this in a different way that always helped me to better understand what's actually going on whenever I place trades. So let's move back to placing a buy order with 1 standard lot on the euro dollar. If you're doing this, essentially, you are telling your broker that you are going to want 100,000 euros. Not 1 million euros. What am I doing? 100,000 euros. So if you're going to purchase 100,000 euros, your brokerage is going to charge you the exchange rate that the market currently has, which is 1.0802. 100,000 times 1.0802 would be, they will charge you $108,002. So that's what you're being charged to get 100,000 euros. Your broker gives you that 100,000 euros. They get $108,002 from you, from your account. Then you are holding that 100,000 euros, waiting on the market to either rise or fall, waiting on the euro dollar to either rise or fall. In this case, you bought the euros and the market went up from 108.02 to 109.02, meaning that you still have the same 100,000 euros that you are holding, but now instead of them having a value of $108,002, they now have a value because of the difference in the exchange rate. The exchange rate has went up. They now have a value of $109,002, and that's where you're getting that $1,000 if you're trading a standard lot. So that's the way a pip works if you're trading a standard lot. Let's go into the way a pip works if you're trading a mini and a micro lot, just to make sure you have a solid grasp on this. We'll keep the math easy with a 100 pip move, except now instead of trading 1 standard lot, we're going to assume that we're going to do a little bit of a difficult thing here, a little more difficult as we go. Let's assume you want to trade 2 mini lots. So you're trading 2 mini lots. And do you remember what a mini is? A mini is you holding 10,000 units of currency. So if you're trading 2 minis, you're holding 20,000 units of currency. A mini is worth $1 per pip, meaning the value of a pip, if you're trading a mini lot, is $1. So in this case, the market goes up by 100 pips. So our equation would still be, pips would be 100 times the value per mini lot, per pip when you're trading a mini lot, which is $1, times the amount of mini lots you're trading, which is 2, meaning that your profit on this trade, if you were trading a mini lot, would be 100 times 1, which is 100, times 2, which is the amount of mini lots you're trading. So you would have a profit of $200 on this particular trade. Now, let's go through the other way of looking at it on a mini lot as well. What you are saying is, broker, I want 20,000 euros. And they are going to, math is going to get a little more difficult here. Hold on. They're going to charge you, let's bring a calculator over, 1.0802 times 20,000. When they do that, they're going to be charging you $21,604. So when they're charging you $21,604, you're holding 20,000 units of euro. So while you hold that 20,000 units of euro, just as in our last example, the euro goes up 100 pips. So you still have that same 20,000 euros, except now you have to multiply that 20,000 units that you're holding times the new exchange rate of 1.0902, which means when you give them that 20,000 units back, they owe you $21,804, giving you that $200 profit. So that's the way profit and loss works in a mini lot. No matter how many it is, we have our equation, right? Pips times the amount per pip, the value per pip, times the amount of lots you decide to trade. One more example of this, and then I'm going to show you how I personally calculate pips and how I use risk management in my own trading. But let's go through this last example first on a micro lot. So let's say you want to trade one micro lot, and you're doing that while you buy that one micro lot, the market's at 1.0802, just as with the other examples. We go up 100 pips. What's our equation look like? Well, we have to do our 100 pips times 10 cents times the amount of micro lots we're trading, which in this case is 1. What does that equal? That means that you would have made $10 on this 100 pip move trading one micro lot. So as we do with every other lot size, let's go ahead and look at it in a different way. So you're telling your broker, I want 1,000 units of the euro. And they're telling you, if you want 1,000 units of the euro, we're going to charge you $1,080. And then you say, okay, I'm fine with that. You exchange it. You hold that 1,000 euros until the price rises by 100 pips. And when it does, your same 1,000 euros is now worth $1,090 because of that rise in price. So that's exactly how the value of a pip works when using a certain lot size. Now, for my own personal trading, as I said at the beginning of the video, I actually trade based on a certain percentage of my account value. So the lot size is always a random number, and that's an extremely simple thing to do if you have the right platform. So I'm going to show you my platform and show you how I actually determine the value per pip myself. This was for anyone using MT4 or a brokerage that doesn't allow you to have random lot sizes. So I hope that was helpful. Let's break into the way I actually prepare, have risk management, the way that I calculate value per pip in my own personal trading right now. Okay, so now let's talk about how I personally calculate the value per pip. And first, let's talk about why you even need all of this information. Why do you need to understand how much every pip is worth depending on the lot size that you're trading? Well, the reason is because of risk management. You want to understand that so that you can know how much of your account you're risking per trade. Whatever your stop loss is, and also how much you can make per trade. But the more important part of this equation is how much you can lose. So with that being the case, the reason we want to understand the value of the pip is because we want to understand how much we're risking on each trade. With that being the case, the way I use risk management and calculate the value per pip is a lot different than what I just showed you, because my brokerage, as we discussed in the beginning, and my platform allow me to trade completely random unit sizes. So for me, it's a lot easier than having to do any of that math. I learned that at the beginning, and I know that's something a lot of you may have to use, but for those of you who have the same brokerage as me, or for those of you who have a brokerage that allows you to use random units to place orders, this is what I personally do. I want to share this with you as well. So all I do, if I want to place a trade, let's say I wanted to buy the New Zealand dollar right now, which is the currency pair we're on, I would go to create a new order. I would have a market order in, and I would set my stop loss. And let's do this first. Let's go ahead and say I want to buy the New Zealand dollar right now. I want to have a stop loss below this red candle. So that's my stop loss, and I have a target at a 2-to-1 risk reward. So if this is the case, I now have my trade set up. So what I'll do is go to trade, create new order. It's going to be a buy order on the New Zealand dollar, and I know where my stop loss is. It's at 100 pips. So 100 pips is my stop loss. I know my target's at 200 pips, around a 2-to-1 risk reward. With this being the case, my units for me are completely irrelevant. And this is the reason. I'm trading based on a certain risk of my account with every position that I take out. The certain risk for me is between 1 and 2%. So for me, the easy way that I do this is I go here to TradingView, I place my order, and I put in what amount of risk I want to use. As you can see right here on the order form, it says percent risk. When I put in 2% risk, you can see that it shows me the size in units that I'm actually purchasing. And this number is completely random. Again, some brokerages may only allow you to place trades based on standard lots. In that case, you would need to trade 2 standard lots and it would be completely different for you. But for the way I trade for my brokerage and my platform, I'm allowed to trade based on a certain percentage of my account value, which is what I like to do for every trade I place. Therefore, the lesson we just went over is kind of irrelevant for me at this point in my trading, considering the technology that I use here over on the TradingView platform in order to determine the amount of risk I'm going to use in my personal trading account with every trade that I place. So I wanted to give you both of those so that you now at least understand how to calculate the value of a pip based on your order size. And also, you know now that you can go over to TradingView and you can see the amount of units you need to purchase based on the percentage risk of your account. We're going to go over a lot more of that later on in the course in terms of how to calculate risk per position and things like that. It's going to be later on. Right now, I just want you to understand how to calculate the value of a pip, and I wanted to show you how I personally calculate the value of a pip. Later on, and in the next lesson, we are going over what leverage really means. So in that video, in the next video, we're going to talk a lot about leverage. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you got value out of it. Hopefully now you understand exactly how to calculate the value of a pip, and I'll talk to you in the next video. See you soon. What's up, and welcome to lesson number 4 in our all-inclusive beginner Forex trading course that is going to be everything that you need in order to start your Forex trading journey. This video, you read it right, folks, is all about leverage. So by the end of this video, you're not only going to know what leverage is, but you're also going to understand why a lot of traders end up blowing accounts because of it, how to avoid that, and the proper way to actually use leverage by the end of the video. So let's go ahead and get started with what is leverage. And the way we're going to do that is by using an example of the housing market. So let's go ahead and get started with that right now. Let's say, by the way, in the housing market, when you want to get a loan for a house, you actually need 20% down on that property in order to purchase that property. So let's say you find a property that you want to invest in, and this property is $100,000. In the case of this property being $100,000, how much do you need to deposit? How much of a down payment do you need in order to buy this house or invest in this house? You need $20,000, right? So let's say you come across the greatest bank in the world and they come up to you and they say, hey, we know you want this property. What we're going to do is we're going to take your $20,000 and we're going to give you this $100,000 piece of property. You can hold it as long as you want. You don't have to make any payments on this property, but when you decide to sell it, you still owe us $100,000. So that means if the market crashes and this house's property drops like crazy, you still owe us $100,000 whenever you decide to sell. And if the housing market goes up, vice versa, you still owe us $100,000. So let's do this scenario. Let's say you say, okay, yeah, great deal. That is an amazing deal. So let's do it. And you buy this $100,000 property with a $20,000 down payment, and you have no payments. And then, throughout the course of 12 months, the housing market drops 50%. Oh no, right? So now your property that was worth $100,000 is now only worth $50,000. But guess what? That bank already told you whether the market goes up or down, you owe us our $100,000 back. So in this case, you decide to sell for a loss. How much did you lose on this house? You lost that $50,000. That sucks, right? So this is the power of leverage in terms of how it can hurt you. You lost more than your initial down payment, more than your deposit, maybe more than you had if $20,000 is all you had to invest. Is this sounding familiar? Kind of like leverage in the Forex market? And some of the horror stories you've heard. So that's how leverage can hurt you, right? And in terms of helping you, we can do this other scenario, because guess what? Just as bad as it can hurt you, it can help you make ridiculous returns as well when you use it correctly. So let's say the same scenario, you pay $20,000. They say, here's this $100,000 property to hold. This time, instead of the market dropping by 50%, we go up 50% over the next 12 months. So with the housing market going up 50%, you now have this property that was worth 100 grand that is now worth $150,000. And guess what? The bank says the same thing. Whenever you sell at that 12-month period, the bank says, okay, you've sold, you owe us 100K. In that case, you give them their 100K back, and you end up with a plus $50,000 profit. So in this case, you made more than your initial down payment. That is the power of leverage. Leverage can allow you to make ridiculous returns, and also, unfortunately, can cause you to lose even more than you initially invested. Now, Forex is a little different because there's a thing called margin call, but now that you know what leverage is, let's relate it back over to Forex. And by the way, this bank, the $20,000, and will let you hold 100K property, is the broker. So let's jump into an actual Forex scenario with this being the case. Let's go ahead and delete all of this. So in Forex, I'm going to draw out a little graph here. We have about 4 different types of major leverage that people or brokers allow you to have. And we have 1 to 10 leverage, 1 to 20, 1 to 50, and 1 to 100 leverage.